We are live. No fancy set. No musical interlude. Just you and me, the intersection, Midas touch. I'm Michael Popok. Thanks for being here, being part of our community, and having our back. Because now more than ever, independent commentary and journalism needs support, right? We'll protect your First Amendment rights because we know you're protecting ours. Got a great show tonight, and I got a special guest, Dani Bensky, Epstein survivor and leader of the cause, who will join to talk to me about all things Epstein, including new revelations about Epstein, about how he corrupted law enforcement, customs, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Jail. Whatever he touched, he corrupted. Which, he had a lot in common with his best friend at the time, Donald Trump. And Dani will come on and give us, from her unique perspective, what happened, what she learned about the cover-up that we always suspected going on in the White House, in the Situation Room, as reported by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan of the New York Times. So I thought it was perfect timing to bring in Dani, and so pleased that she was generous with her time to join us. Let's kick it off with Iran. I don't know. I mean, I know that Fox set off the confetti cannon. We have a deal. I mean, if by definition of deal, okay, let me tell you what we don't have. We don't have a peace treaty. We don't have a treaty that ends a war. Okay? Our predecessors, our forefathers are turning over their grave in laughter. This is not Appomattox, right? This isn't like the surrender of the Japanese or even of the Germans or of anyone. There's no surrender. And now we've got, through Middle Eastern press, what appears to be a pretty good summary of the 14-point memorandum of understanding. Oh, a memorandum of understanding? Really? We have an MOU? After trillions of dollars spent, energy markets destroyed, world economy upended, and American life lost, we have an MOU? Really? That says we're going to agree to disagree to agree over the next 60 days? And you know what's missing from it? I almost made a mistake. The word nuclear is completely missing from it, except in reference to, you get to keep whatever it is you have. Not that we know what they have, because we gave up monitoring when we pulled out of the Obama deal. So now we're going to have to rely on Jared Kushner and first son-in-law and Steve Witkoff, golf buddy, to tell us what the current status of the nuclear program is for Iran, that they are agreeing to keep in place, to hold status quo. How do you know what the status quo is? So, and $300 billion brokered by the United States to repay Iran for the privilege of having been bombed by the United States and Israel 60 or 70,000 times. It's one of the few times somebody on Lindsey Graham's staff watches me. I don't want to be cocky about this. I said 2 or 3 days ago on one of my videos or podcasts that, this isn't like the Marshall Plan where we rebuilt Europe, but we at least got rid of Hitler. I said, we're giving money, we're brokering a deal for $300 million plus. Well, I'm not done. That's not all, folks. Like late night infomercial. Plus the release of frozen assets and money and oil money that we've been holding, which should have been not only confiscated, but should have been disgorged and sent to the American people to pay for the war. How many different ways are we going to pay for the war? I thought the war was going to be for free because we were confiscating oil and oil tankers and all that. It's a free war, everybody. You get one free war under Donald Trump, except it's not free. Except for now we're releasing that same money. It's like the ballroom. I just did a video for today. The ballroom, which was supposed to not cost the American people one thin dime. That's almost a direct quote from Donald Trump, is now costing the American people $300 million, and we're not even done. $600 million ballroom now, folks. You know where that's going in the next few months. $1 billion. So wait till we go through. I'll go through it in a moment. The 14 points that have been released through different Middle Eastern TV stations, been sort of confirmed by some of our counterparties. It's going to be pretty darn close to this, and it's terrible. It strengthens Iran. It weakens the United States. It gives them effectively the Strait of Hormuz. It gives them $1 billion to rebuild and keeps the Iranian the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Ayatollahs in charge of the country. That's regime change. Really? We're just rearming and refunding our mortal enemy? And while we're at it, why don't we thank the Chinese and the Russians for helping? Round of applause for two more of our enemies that Donald Trump enlisted to bail him out of the corner he painted himself into with the Iran war. Going to talk about Kash Patel is in the news for all the wrong reasons again. The FBI director, Secret Service is attacking him, basically publicly. We'll show it in a minute, about him stealing the valor of the Secret Service in announcing the arrest of some, but not all, of the UFC 250 fight sabotage, mass murder, mass shooting that was averted by apparently the Secret Service, not the FBI. But then Kash Patel has to steal the valor by getting out a fast social media post this morning that wasn't in coordination with the DOJ or the Secret Service, and more importantly, was before everybody was captured. They only had 5 out of 23 people under arrest. Nice job in jeopardizing a active criminal investigation and putting law enforcement in jeopardy, who now have to go to these people's houses when it's already been announced that the plot has been broken. Sound familiar? Sounds like the Charlie Kirk announcement of Kash Patel. Oh, will he never learn? At the same time, there's new reporting that he set up a $1 million slush fund. What is it with this administration and slush funds? It's just remarkable. He got $1 million somewhere, Lord knows where, sucked it out of some account that would have been to protect America, and gave it to MAGA FBI agents to reward them. We'll get there. Then we'll have Dani Bensky on, talk about all things Epstein, the leak, and the bravery of the New York Times. And I know Maggie Haberman, for some reason in our audience, gets a mixed bag, but she is a fine journalist who, against all odds, with great courage, probably going to be indicted over this. Not that she's afraid of it. She has 1,000 people that cooperated her with her book, along with Jonathan Swan, Regime Change, and she wrote this one chapter that got released to the New York Times, and she said right up front, "I have recordings." I mean, 2 days later, the mainstream media was like, "I think there's a recording. The Trump administration's freaking out. You think there's a recording?" I said 20 minutes after I read it, she's giving direct quotes, in quotes. You don't do that unless you have a transcript and or a recording. And she said in her footnote to her own article with Jonathan Swan, there's a recording. Oh, and apparently it also picked up conversation about the Iran war planning. Well, what would you expect from an administration who's kicked off their administration by having the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine added to a Signal app of top secret conversation and war planning about Yemen? Remember that? And then he published that. Of course. Who's the leaker? You can put it in comments. Here's your choices. A, it could be multiple. Dan Bongino. B, Susie Wiles. C, J.D. Vance. You notice how J.D. Vance, every time there's a leak, it tries to make him look good and better. Like he went on with his book he wrote. What's it called? Conversion, Catholicism, Catholic, whatever it's called. And he's going around on television talking about it. He says, I am a, we'll talk about it with Dani too, her reaction. I am a Epstein conspiracy theorist. That must have went over well with Donald Trump, who wants to kill the story. He confesses, I'm a conspiracy theorist about Epstein. Okay, well, why don't you start turning people in? He's the one that gets reported by Maggie Haberman with a quote about there's there's reporting about the boss sexually abusing and assaulting a woman or girl and her breasts. We got to get that story out. Like every time there's a story about JD Vance, which makes me believe he's part of the leak, or part of the confirmation, corroboration part of the leak. I had a great interview with Don Lemon while he was traveling. It'll be up, I think, tomorrow on Legal AF YouTube channel. And we talked about the personal sacrifice and courage of reporters who put themselves purposely, because it's their job, in the crosshairs of the Trump administration. And what we think is going to happen with Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. Hint, Trump will do a lot of saber rattling, but he won't go after her and him or the Times, because she's sitting on a powder keg of 1,000 cooperating witnesses, including inside the government currently. And he doesn't know what she has. It's like a prisoner's dilemma. You don't know, and he's playing with dynamite if he goes after the New York Times. We'll talk more about that. And I want to talk about Gavin Newsom. Speaking of political targets of Donald Trump, getting out ahead of the story the right way, the Jay Powell Federal Reserve Chairman way, by releasing a video. That's what you do today. That's PR 101. That's communications 101. You get a rumor that you and your wife are a target of an investigation. You take to the podium and you get the story out first. Really smart. Others have done it as well, but maybe weren't so smart. But I think Gavin Newsom's doing the right thing. We'll talk about that as well. And Todd Blanche is on his confirmation. This is the honeymoon period. This is where he goes around talking to the Republican senators, trying to get votes, makes the rounds there, as that article says. And he had a couple of comments about people like the investigation of the governor of California, which we'll talk about next. And then I've got, speaking of programming note, I've got tomorrow Sheldon Whitehouse, Senator Whitehouse of Rhode Island, on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I'm gonna listen. I'm not pulling punches with Senator Whitehouse. Love him to death, but now, and I've seen him 2 weeks ago on a panel about Supreme Court reform. Now is the time to be loaded for bear with Todd Blanche. I don't want any holding back. I don't want any niceties. I want a concise cross-examination book being prepared now about the Southern Poverty Law Center, the indictment of Comey, the grand conspiracy indictments, the anti-weaponization fund, the attempt to amend the anti-weaponization fund and add a get-out-of-jail-free card for Trump and his family. The fraud on the court charges down in Miami. Why he never testifies at anything under oath, even if it means the Department of Justice loses. These are the hard-hitting questions our audience demands. So, Senator Whitehouse, start your engines. And we'll be covering that as well. So I'm glad you're here on The Intersection. And this is live. What can I do for proof of life? No, that's not it. This is live. So if you have a question or two, put them in the comments. And somebody on my team will grab it, throw it up on my screen where I'm sitting, and we'll try to answer the questions as we go forward. Let's kick it off with the 14-point memorandum of understanding. I'm like, what is this? Is this like a deal to buy a piece of land? Or this is the beginnings or the end of a war treaty? It's not a treaty. When Donald Trump announces, I got a deal. A deal. A deal to do what? To end a war, but not really, over 60 days. Who out there, put it in comments, believes this will be the complete cessation of hostilities between these two nations, and Israel as a proxy, and Lebanon and the rest, from now until the end of the 60 days? Who believes there won't be one missile fired, one proportional attack or response by either side or by proxy during the 60 days period? Good. I respect opinions. Put your opinion down. You think that's going to happen? Right. So what is this? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not the deal that Donald Trump promised the American people. He said, we're going to spend $1 trillion. This is my version. We're going to spend $1 trillion. We're going to end up paying several $100 million or $1 billion to Iran once we're done to rebuild them. We're not going to get regime change. We're going to upend the global markets and the energy markets and the U.S. economy and inflation. But we're going to get rid of the nuclear threat of Iran, okay? We can't let him get a nuclear weapon. That is what he sold us. I mean, not us, others. Is that what we got in the deal that was just announced? Let me go through the highlights, assuming this is pretty darn close. And if the paper's in the Middle East that I grabbed it from, this is going to be pretty darn close. So let me just give you the ones I like that we should focus on. All right, let's start with number 2. Iran and the United States undertake to respect each other's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and refrain from interfering. Remember, this is all just for 60 days. We know that because number 3 says they'll undertake to negotiate, not that they will accomplish. They'll undertake to negotiate a final agreement 60 days, extendable by mutual consent. So it's not really 60 days. It's Donald Trump saying on the 59th day, I'm going to bomb the bridges and the tunnels and the electricity and the civilian population. Okay, I'm not. Immediately upon signing it, this thing, I just read you the first 2 things. Immediately upon signing this MOU, United States is going to lift the naval blockade and restore traffic within 60 days to its full capacity. Okay, so they got what they wanted without them having to do anything. The number 5, the Islamic Republic will immediately of Iran will take steps to ensure the movement of ships. Okay, doesn't say they're not going to toll. They're not going to add fees on every load of oil. Number 6. So that's all they have to do so far. Now the United States undertakes in number 6 with its regional partners to create a comprehensive plan for rehab and the economic development of Iran, ensuring at least $300 billion. But that's not all, folks. I know a lot of the MAGA are coming out there lying to us and saying, but it's not going to be taxpayer dollars. That's a lie. That is a lie. Part of that, why should they get it anyway? Let alone whether it comes from the American coffers or not. So, then number 7, the United States ends, this is on the signing of the MOU, on a schedule to be agreed upon, as part of the final agreement. So that will await the final agreement on sanctions, on lifting sanctions. Okay, so we're going to lift sanctions. All right, that's good. Okay, that's 5. And then we had 6, and then we have 7, and now let's go to 8. Iran reiterates it will never produce nuclear weapons. Iran and the United States have agreed that the fate of the enriched material and the fate of all other nuclear-related issues will be addressed in a final agreement. So they think that MOU where it says it will never produce a nuclear weapon, how is that enforceable? How is that enforced? What about trust but verify? Where's the verify part? Where's the inspectors? Nowhere. That was the deal that Trump pulled out of for Obama. Here's my favorite, number 9. Iran and the United States agree that pending the final agreement, Iran will maintain the status quo on its nuclear program. How do we know what the status quo is? First of all, I thought we blew up the status quo in the summer. No, they get to continue. And then, in light of and this is now, not in 60 days, in light of the progress of the negotiations toward the final agreement, we're already releasing, according to this version, we're releasing funds. Frozen or restricted funds and assets will be released and made available, like now. They'll be held in a master account. They'll be transferred. There we go. That's it. Let's do it now on the signing. Okay. I mean, if you guys haven't thrown up yet, and this will, there we go. People shouldn't read too much into the language of the MOU. Yeah, of course, it's a political, I don't know what this is. That's a political document. Of course. And he's delivering it to Congress. It'll be pretty close to what I just read. It's an agreement to disagree and agree over the next 60 days. So help us God, and the money gets released now. That's what it is. And Iran is stronger. And they are now rewarded for having hung in there and sacrificed their navy and their whatever in order to emerge stronger. No regime change, 90 million people still under a theocracy, still under a dictatorship, still under the Islamic Republican Guard, and still have nuclear weapon capacity and capability. And that one line in there, that gave people confidence. They don't want it, Popok. They don't want the nuclear weapon. So we're good, right? No, we're not good. Low Lord. So let me answer some questions before I move on. I have to cleanse my palate now. Move on from this reporting. Let's see what's up in the questions. The questions column. Ohio question, Mr. P, are there any quality polls for the midterms in November? I mean, yeah, I mean, the polling as of now is projecting, I don't know, 240, 245 seats for the Democrats. You only need 218 to govern, and you see how close things are. I mean, they just got this $75 billion ICE and Homeland Security package through with 2 votes. 2 votes. We're going to have more than 2 votes in the Senate. It's now being projected for the Democrats. But, polls are great, except you got to go to the polls. You have to vote. You have to mobilize the vote, stand in line and guard your ballot and deliver it by hand, whatever you got to do in order to make sure that the votes are properly counted. A Sapphire Dragon How, I love these names. How do we hold the senators questioning Blanche accountable and forced to ask about things like falsifying signatures of a clients? Yeah, I did a video on that. Yeah, there's still a malpractice case out there that claims that somebody, and they think it was Blanche, forged the name of a client or two on an engagement letter. And he's got a lot of that. We're back to it's not a burn book. It's a detailed, his legal team, the Senate Judiciary Committee is supported by lawyers who work for the Senate Judiciary Committee, like Alex Aronson of Court Accountability Action, who's with us on Legal AF YouTube channel. He was the lead lawyer for the Senate Judiciary Committee and worked closely with White House. So that's why I got White House coming on tomorrow. And I'm going to ask that type of question. How do you instill confidence in my audience that you're going to do the hard questioning and not let them off the hook, and if it needs to go longer than a day, do whatever you have to do. I know it's hard because we don't have the gavel. When you don't have the gavel, the hearing time is short. The questioning time is shorter than it should be. If the Democrats had the gavel, we would be, he'd be there for 5 days. But he's not. We don't have that. Somebody said, did you see Trump at the G7 conference? He doesn't look well at all. I'm actually surprised he went. I have a working theory that he was missing for those 8 days and didn't travel by plane to his son's wedding after he went to Walter Reed is because he's seriously ill. Like a treatment, a surgery. I don't mean cosmetic. I don't mean, gastro bypass. I mean, like something bad. You don't have 22 specialists crawling over your medical records if you're doing well. Okay. I've had 80-year-olds in my life. My late mom and my late dad made it both to 80. And it's not normal. Falling asleep in meetings is not normal. It's not normal. It's not a long blink. Question for Popok, Hillary for Supreme Ruler. Do you know what's going on with Michael Wolff's lawsuit against Melania? Yeah, I think Michael is going to take if he hasn't yet, he's going to take an appeal in New York to try to get the Second Circuit to force the judge to open discovery about where Melania really lives. If that doesn't work, somebody's going to have to file in Miami. So far, Melania has not filed against Michael Wolff. They really don't want to touch Michael Wolff with a 10-foot pole. It's sort of like Maggie Haberman. Like, they don't want to tangle with him. He's such a wild card, I'm not sure Michael knows what he's about to say before he says it. And he says he's sitting on a stockpile of all these recordings, and you see nobody wants to go after them, like the Department of Justice. And yet Michael, so there's a lot going on there. Let me just put that together. Let me switch gears and talk about Kash Patel, because I want to take a commercial break before we start with Dani Bensky. Patel once again F's up a criminal investigation. The reporting is he woke up at 10:50 in the morning. He posted on his social media that the FBI has busted a wide-ranging national crime ring that was going to wreak havoc on UFC 250 with drones and then get people into an area and use snipers to kill them. And it's like 23 people. They're all over the country. And he announces it before coordination with the Department of Justice, before the indictment is unsealed, before everybody's arrested. And the Secret Service got pissed off. Because first of all, the Secret Service led the charge, not the FBI. Of course, you wouldn't know it by the way Kash Patel wrote his piece. In fact, I got a copy of it here. So Kash Patel, this is what they wake up to. Like, you're not supposed to wake up to this if you're in the government. 10:49 or 10 whatever it is this morning. On June 10, FBI and our law enforcement partners, you mean like the Secret Service that led it, became aware of a potential threat to UFC America 250. And thanks to the rapid action of the FBI, our partners, and the Department of Operation and the Department of Justice, multiple individuals are now in custody, and allegedly planned attacks were stopped cold. They're not all in custody at that moment. 5 were. 17 weren't. 18 weren't. You just jeopardized the investigation. You don't think the other ones that were now still on the lam, on the loose, weren't, potentially going to do harm against law enforcement, sheriffs and marshals there and FBI to pick them up? It's not the first time he's done it. He did it with Charlie Kirk, where he screwed up that investigation, started announcing suspects have been apprehended, all sorts of crazy things. But this time the Secret Service got really, it was bad because the Secret Service got pissed. And here's a clip of a leader of the Secret Service talking about what you're supposed to do during an investigation and what you're not supposed to. This is after Kash Patel posted on social media today. Play the clip.
We will put it out at the right time.
You mentioned that your department chose not to leak this. What do you mean by that, and how upset are you that Kash Patel put this out there?
I'm not going to comment on who or what. I'm going to tell you that we, the Secret Service, made a conscious decision to maintain the integrity of the security plan and the ongoing investigation. I'll tell you a phrase I learned early in my career in the New York field office, and that's don't choke on your own smoke. Anyone that believes that case was worked in a bubble is naive. I'll tell you the Secret Service led that investigation from the beginning. I'll tell you that it's ongoing. In order to maintain the integrity of the investigation and the security plan, we chose not to leak it.
In stark contrast to Kash Patel is what he wanted to say. And so an hour later, to kind of clean up behind it, Matt Quinn, the deputy director of the Secret Service, that was Matt Quinn, deputy director of the Secret Service. Then his boss, the director, Curran, posted about 39 minutes after Kash Patel the following. Our most important responsibility is safeguarding the president and every person under Secret Service protection. The U.S. Secret Service worked closely with the FBI. In the days leading up to this weekend, our special agents, mission support personnel, and technical security teams worked around the clock to identify those responsible, not the FBI. Equally important to our protective mission is ensuring accountability through the justice system. To that end, our formal comments regarding the specifics of this case will be made through court filings. That's F-U, shut the F up. I'm doing my best De Niro now. Shut the F up, Kash Patel. That is a direct broadside by the Secret Service against Kash Patel. How this guy continues to have a job and draw a federal paycheck is beyond me. We are less secure as a nation every day. This guy accused of public drunkenness, intoxication, incapacitation, and professional immaturity, lack of knowledge and understanding is on the job. And the fact that Donald Trump keeps somebody like that because of his loyalty. You want loyalty? Go get a Labrador. Go get a puppy. Okay? I just got one. You want a director of the FBI that's going to keep America safe? Then if the answer that you have is Kash Patel, you've asked the wrong question. That is for sure. And now we've got the new reporting that just came out from MS Now that there's $1 million slush fund that Kash Patel set up from who knows where. I thought he was just handing out bourbon bottles with his logo on it. I didn't realize he was stealing money from the FBI, redirecting it from away from law enforcement, proper law enforcement programs and funding, and paying off FBI MAGA agents. I guess they exist. Are you kidding me? You get rid of the ones who just did their job working under Jack Smith and the Department of Justice, and you reward the ones and drain. I thought Trump was about draining the swamp, not draining the bank accounts of entities and agencies that were important to America. You know, I put this right next to the reporting that came out today that the ballroom is now $400 million over budget. I thought Donald Trump said if it goes over budget like that, it's a criminal case. Said that about Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair. It's $400 million over, and we're only 8 or 9 months in. Who out there, put it in notes, who out there thinks it's not going to hit $1 billion, the number they sought from the Senate in the House? And how much of that is taxpayer dollars? $300 million. Remember, not supposed to cost a dime. And they siphoned it off, $150 million from the Secret Service, $130 million from the White House Military Office, all to keep the president safe, $3 million from Donald Trump's White House fund. Those are taxpayer dollars that aren't replenished. And if they're replenished with taxpayer dollars. That's why all of a sudden, out of the blue, Trump started talking about, well, it's not just a ballroom. It's a ballroom and a military industrial complex underneath it. It's integrated. It's a knitted whole. Can't separate them. Right. Because now he's going to argue the ballroom is free. That's free, everybody. Free ballroom. The $1 billion is for everything underneath it. Like we're not onto this, you know? We should be. We are. So I got a whole Epstein segment coming up next. Get on the edge of your seat and stay there. We've got Dani Bensky, who's just an amazing person, authentic person who came here a couple of weeks ago, was so kind and generous to come back again to give us the survivor perspective, if you will, human beings perspective about everything we've just learned in the last couple of days off the New York Times article and other reporting. And I want to see it through her eyes with our audience. And then we'll talk about Todd Blanche and Gavin Newsom, all here on The Intersection. So many different ways to support what we do on The Intersection. Let's go in order. This is all, we'll do it from free to free. Download the audio. My producers are telling me we need more audio downloads. It's like Chick-fil-A, eat more chicken. We need more downloads on audio. So wherever you get your audio podcast from, plug in The Intersection, download it. Still stay here on the YouTube. We like the audience, but we need those audio downloads. It helps us stay, at the top of the charts, so to speak. That's one. Then my work, as people know, includes being on and running and curating Legal AF, the YouTube channel. And so come there and become a free subscriber. We got about 11 or 12 fresh videos every day. We've got podcasts like Monday Night Live for Legal AF, hosted by Dina Dahl and Lisa Graves, a podcast called Unprecedented, a podcast called Court of History with Sidney Blumenthal and Sean Wilentz, and an increasing number of people that come on the show who are senators and congresspeople and attorneys general and heads of public interest groups, and former federal judges and the like, to brief our audience about things that are happening in real time, in real life, in the courtrooms. And we can do that because of your support. And then we've got this other thing called Substack. It's not our thing. It was there already. But we opened up our own Substack page. Now we're in the top of the charts for news, and I think you'll enjoy. If you're not already a Substack person, come over. And if you are, go find Legal AF and become a member. I do a live report every day. Did one today. We had about 1,000 people jumped on with me. I do interactive question answering and all that good stuff. So come over there as well. And then because of you, because of the fact that we're now an award-winning podcast and we have the support of the Midas Mighty and the Intersectionists, we have our own sponsors that are want to be here. They know what our content is all about. They know our point of view. They know we don't blow smoke or sunshine, and they want to speak to you, and they're going to do it now. Starting something new, it's terrifying. When I first started this podcast and YouTube channel, I kept thinking, what if nobody listens? What if this doesn't work out? Those doubts are real, but taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And it helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. With hundreds of ready-to-use templates, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. Shopify is also packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography. Plus, Shopify helps you find your customers with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you ever get stuck, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 customer support is always around to share advice. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/intersection. Go to shopify.com/intersection. One more time, shopify.com/intersection. Anyone who has a cat knows that they are basically tiny food critics. Chanel certainly is. If she's not impressed, everybody in the house knows it. So when I found something she genuinely loves and that's actually good for her, I paid attention. That's why I'm a fan of Smalls. Smalls fresh cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free, 100% human-grade ingredients you'd find in your fridge, and it's delivered right to your door. It's because Smalls' fresh, gently cooked food is made without preservatives. More of the nutrients in Smalls food are digestible, so less junk comes out the other end. That means less stinky poops. And after switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. So stop serving your little carnivore a bowl of processed shortcuts for a limited time because you are listeners of The Intersection with Michael Popok. Get 60% off your first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/intersection. That's 60% off your first order, plus free shipping and free treats for life when you head to smalls.com/intersection. And we are back on The Intersection. Thanks for being here. We got a great audience tonight. And I want to talk about the Epstein expose. Bombshell came out, Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan. It's a chapter from a larger book that they're writing. Got 1,000 people that cooperated with them, many of them inside the government, inside the House, so to speak, inside the Trump administration, and inside the Situation Room, apparently. With recordings. I mean, there's no other way to read Maggie Haberman's piece than to come away with, or the piece than to come away with, she's got people with transcripts and or recordings, and probably more than one. We can all speculate here who they are. Now, Maggie Haberman is also getting, with Jonathan Swan, a little bit of grief. And I want to ask Dani about it. Look, this is a journalist who's working on a book. She's got a chapter of the book out now, I think probably because of the timing of people like Todd Blanche's confirmation hearing. But some people are suggesting, she's been sitting on this all along, and shouldn't she have released it earlier to help the Epstein survivors? Which is a question, right? Does she balance her journalistic integrity? She's got 1,000 people that she's talking to kind of pull the story together, or does she separately kind of get out the Epstein files issue and the Situation Room that happened in last July? I don't know when she got it. I don't think she's been sitting on it for 11 months. But she gets it out 10 months after it happens. I don't know the timing of when she got the information. But let's bring in Dani.
Hi.
Hi, Dani Bensky. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me again, Michael. This is such a
absolutely. And I think you're wearing my daughter's favorite insect and pin, the butterfly pin. She has She has earrings that are butterfly earrings that she would that match. But thanks for being here. Yeah, we did. So let me kick it off with there. You've read the story now. We've got dozens and dozens and dozens of quotes, direct quotes from people like Dan Bongino and Susie Wiles and J.D. Vance and James Blair and Stephen Chung, and you name it. I mean, these are direct quotes, and that it's about an series of events that happened in July of last year, which we knew was going on because we knew there were people going in and out of the White House around that period of time. And just to orient our audience, Wall Street Journal has not, as of this timeline, it was just about to, but hadn't yet published the birthday book expose. but
Right.
were threatening to go public with it.
Yeah.
The A week or two before this series of meetings, the FBI and Department of Justice decided to try to. They hoped they would have some sort of gesture of transparency with a 2-page, unsigned, undated letter closeout memo from the FBI and the Department of Justice that said, no client list, and he wasn't murdered. Are we good now? And the American people were like, we
Not
all
really.
vomited.
Yeah,
No,
not so much.
yeah, not so much. We're not good now. So that's the timeline, right? And then these events happen. Let me ask you a quick question. Are you troubled at all if there is a delay of X amount of months where Maggie and Jonathan are developing their story but haven't published it yet, and it came out like the last couple of days, that they should have gotten it out faster?
I mean, to me, it's like, we don't know when they acquired this information, right? So I can't, who's to say, like, this is all speculation. I'm just excited that the information did come out because it really does confirm that there is a real cover up. It's everything that we already knew. But to see it in such granular detail was something that felt, like we're not going crazy, right? Like survivors already felt this, where it's like, I feel like we're going insane all the time. And instead it just confirmed that no, this is real. They're literally sitting in the situation room where wars are declared to talk about the Epstein files. And by the way, you have Todd Blanche in there, who is like the nomination for the highest chief office in law that we have in this country. So, and they're perpetuating the cover up instead of looking at active investigations. So to me, that's the takeaway, is that, survivors have been screaming about, there are so many investigations that need to be looked into, and just open the files and look at, like, pick one person and just investigate them. And they've yet to do that. And so to see that they're, in the Situation Room talking about how they're going to cover this whole thing up, when they really should just be launching headfirst into these investigations, it is weirdly validating.
Yeah, I could empathize with the validation part. Yeah, I mean, look, for me, my 2 cents, what I do and what Maggie does and Jonathan do are sort of different. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reporting sort of in real time. I'm not breaking. I mean, occasionally we'll break a news story. We'll catch something in a document and with our analysis that's different than somebody else's take. But I'm not sitting down with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Literally 1,000. This is what she reviewed, which is what she said in her reporting. And with all the notes, and I mean, look, one of my favorite movies is All the President's Men. Could they have gone, right? Could they have gone, or could Woodward and Bernstein have gone earlier with the story? Maybe, but I mean, there's journalistic integrity and things you have to do in order to avoid being indicted and or sued for defamation. You got to get your story right. So that doesn't, like, what I can do, like, I knew you were coming on today. I spent a good half an hour, 45 minutes looking over stuff, but I didn't spend months redeveloping witness files. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think it's important that it came out during the administration and before the midterms.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a story is ready to be published when it's ready to be published.
Yeah.
And it has to be vetted by First Amendment lawyers.
Right. Yeah. That part is right. It really is that, right? That you want to make sure that it's vetted. You want to make sure the information is correct. Like, I don't blame her for sitting and making sure that it's accurate, because it was so detailed, right? Like, that was the takeaway, was that, I mean, she got down to like the notebooks that were out there that Bondi had given to the influencer. I mean, every single detail, where people were sitting, who was on the call. I mean, it was so well done. So I'd rather take the time, and I'd rather have it be well done than be half-assed and not checked, right? So
totally agree with you. And, like, for instance, maybe in another administration, she would have come out with the story a little bit faster, like, but with this administration, where you literally can be investigated and indicted and have FBI show up at your door to grab all of your electronic. I mean, people don't think that we put it past this administration. They just did it against the Washington Post reporter.
Yeah.
Go in, storm down her door and Jonathan Swan's door, grab all of her electronics, put her out of business, and start searching through it until a federal judge tells them no. Is that what they want? So look, they know that they're up, that they are targets. Now, let me throw something by you that Don Lemon told me today. Have you been on Don Lemon's show?
No, never, but I
Yeah.
love Don Levin. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Don and I were talking about this from a journalist, like we're talking it to from here from a survivor's perspective. I got it from Don Lemon's perspective, and he had a good comment. He said to me at the end, and this is going to go up on YouTube for Legal AF tomorrow. He said, "Now that I think about it, she's sitting on a powder keg that Trump doesn't want to mess with. She's got 1,000 people, including many inside the current government, and he doesn't know who it is, including recording. So if he goes after her."
Yeah.
Right. It's like one of those movies, right? You go after me, I disappear. All these envelopes get mailed out across the world with the tape,
Amazing.
Right. So, yeah. And so talk to our audience a bit about you said you felt sort of a bit of relief that you weren't crazy and the things that you said were going on in the cover up have now been confirmed and revealed.
Yeah.
Talk me through that for you.
I mean, it's amazing and validating on one hand because it absolutely confirms everything that we already knew. We already felt that right, that we're like, they're sitting on all this information. Why hasn't one investigation even been started? It wasn't even started yet. But there's also a piece of it that's like just absolutely infuriating, and it feels like we're banging our head against the wall because we're in Congress all the time talking to Republicans and Democrats alike and sharing our stories and saying there's a lot to see here. Please do something. And it makes me feel like, in the House and in the Senate, it doesn't really matter what we do because we're always stopped by the DOJ. And so it really isn't partisan. Like, we had an amazing meeting with Comer this week. And it was one of those meetings that he heard us, and I really respected his chief of staff. We've had many conversations with him before. And he walked away and he actually did really listen. And I think there was an act of good faith that happened after that by calling Alan Dershowitz in. And he did say that it won't just be transcribed. It will be filmed. It'll be under oath. And those are things that we were really pushing hard for. So I do feel like he was listening and heard us. But we get into this vicious cycle, I think, of we feel heard, we feel like we're going to get somewhere, we call these people in, they perjure themselves. And then we're like, okay, we caught them in a lie. What do we do now? And it's like, well, we can pull them back in. And it's like, okay, pulling them back in, then what does that do? And it's like, well, there's always the last stop is always going to be the DOJ. And so when you have somebody like Todd Blanche at the helm of the DOJ, it's hugely problematic, right? Like, he has the president's best interest. He does not have the American people's best interest at heart. And he's proven that. He was in that situation room. He needs to be called in and questioned. He needs to be in front of the oversight committee now to answer, how, we also know that he was responsible for so many botched redactions and how this rollout even happened. And botched is like an understatement, by the way. But he's responsible for a lot of this. I mean, Bondi, I'm not letting her off the hook. She definitely had something to do with this too. But we know that Todd Blanche had a lot to do with this, and he moved Ghislaine Maxwell. So there's so many things here that come back to Blanche, and now he is the nomination. And that's he's so unfit to be the acting attorney general of our country. I can't even, my brain words fail me. So
no, it would be a disqualifying event in any other life and time. This is the CNN reporting about the meeting that you've identified that you went to. And if there's anything not right about the reporting, you see if you can correct it. How's that sound?
Yeah.
It says the group, which you were a part of, brought documents from the DOJ's released Epstein files, including an email detailing a list of men from the late convicted sex offender's orbit, as well as Joffrey's 2015 testimony to investigators, to help the Republican chairman refine his own probe and to argue that there are allegations against powerful men that the Justice Department could pursue. Is that about right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It says that the survivors presented Comer a partially redacted set of emails from July 2025 that showed FBI officials were aware of an email discussing building out a spreadsheet of allegations against more than a dozen men.
Yes.
Take these names and build out a new spreadsheet, said the redacted individual in one of the emails. And the list includes some who have previously testified in the committee, like Bill Clinton and Les Wexner, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and President Donald Trump. Is that accurate?
Yes. And there's also Bill Barr is on that list. There are quite a few people on that list that really, you name it. It's It's everybody that we've been saying, but this is where everybody screams at us all the time. Give us a list, the names. We're literally just open the files and read the files. And so this email is one of those files that has and it was internal in the FBI. They were already starting to investigate them. What happened is the question.
And what was his reaction when he was confronted with this, with a group of very authentic survivors, who are, right? That he can't just ignore them away. He can't just you are real people who were really sexually abused and are here for justice. What was his reaction? Like his body language or his facial expressions?
I mean, the fact that he acknowledges that there are real, true investigative leads was everything to me, and I think to the people in that room, because we've been hearing there's nothing coming from Blanche, coming from the DOJ, that there's nothing to see. And for Comer to sit there and look at those, look at that list and say, okay, we're gonna look at this, we're gonna take this into consideration, we'll call some of these people in, like even just that sort of understanding that they do need to be called in was more than we've gotten from anyone. So that felt really good.
Yeah, that's rewarding for our audience to hear from you. That meeting happened and that you think there can be real change and that you had an impact on it. He wasn't an impassive heart of stone. And he's a wild card a little bit. He's a wild
card. He's a wild card. And I think what I'm starting to realize is, like, we think the House has so much control. Like survivors, we are in the House a lot. We're in the House more than we're in the Senate. And what I'm realizing is, like, they can only do so much, because we have House oversight has been pretty great to us, especially House Oversight Democrats have been amazing with us. And we went to the redacted reading room this week. I was showing them files. Jasmine Crockett came, like Maxwell Frost was there, right? Like we have had amazing relationships with so many, especially on the Democratic side, but also in the House with Republicans. We've had great conversations. But that's where it just gets so frustrating, because it's like, okay, I don't really see this as a partisan issue. Everybody's on the same side as far as, like, pedophiles are bad, rapists are bad, we need to get these powerful people, and then somehow it's like there's nothing that can move forward ever. So while I left that meeting feeling really hopeful, and I do feel like there were acts of good faith after, I just we'll see what happens, because it just always feels like we're beating our head against the wall.
And what was your take on JD Vance and the reporting by Maggie Haberman, who said, oh, there's allegations of sexual abuse by Donald Trump on a woman, we need to get that story out, and then going on and saying during his book tour that he is an Epstein conspiracy theorist? What did you make of that?
It's so hard to figure out, because he said on multiple occasions that he's a conspiracy theorist, and part of me was like, great, let's debunk the conspiracy. Does he want to take a meeting with survivors? Because I know many of us that would sit down with him and tell him stories, right? So part of me is like, we've always been asking for meetings. Like that is from the get-go. We've been asking DOJ for meetings. And I'm like, so is there a way that we sit down with JD Vance and debunk some of this? Let's do it.
Yeah, you want a debunk session with JD Vance,
basically.
Yeah, and if you get it, will you let me know? Maybe we can arrange Legal AF to televise it. Because with you there, I want to be there. He's outmatched already. On the then we've got this other stuff that came out, which I want to kind of take your temperature on, which is that Epstein was paying off Palm Beach County jail sheriffs to get perks while he was in jail for the time he was there. And then you reminded me that he had something where the customs authorities were investigating him. What do you know about all that?
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. He was the king of manipulation, right? Like we know that he was a master manipulator from the get-go. It's how he groomed so many girls. It's how we fell into his orbit and felt like we couldn't escape. Like it definitely did feel at times even cult-like, where you felt like you're cast under this spell. So he played the game. He knew how to charm people. He knew how to bribe people like that. He loved that. And so I was thinking about the Border Patrol article after we talked about the Palm Beach situation and when he was incarcerated. But and the Border Patrol situation is literally, he was like taking Border Patrol like whale watching. He was like bringing the CBP, like he had somebody who was like coming in and he hired them to play steel drums for girls on the island. Like he just knew how to manipulate situations in such a way to get whatever he wanted. So it really didn't shock me at all. But it's just disappointing that through all of this, nobody felt brave enough to stand up, except for, I keep coming back to Maria Farmer in 1996, who was the whistleblower, and nobody believed her. So you're talking like thousands of people that he was bribing, and, you know, I don't know if he was blackmailing or not, but like, you know, there were so many things that he would hold over people. And I just don't understand how nobody reported it, how everybody was just cast under this spell of power and manipulation.
How confident are you, Dani, that just to see what the stakes are here, if the Democrats get control and get the gavel in the House and the Senate in November for January, how confident are you that justice will eventually be done for the Epstein survivors like you?
I don't know. It's a really tricky question because right now I feel like the problem lives in the DOJ. I feel like no matter who's in the House and who's in the Senate, it really, I mean, yes, it matters to some degree. And of course you should vote. And of course you should get out there and, you know, do what you think is right. But I think the DOJ is the problem when you have somebody at the helm like Todd Blanche, who is a key, he's actively covering this up, right? Like that's his goal in all of this. So that's a problem, right? And I don't see that really going away anytime soon, unfortunately.
So that's more like a 2029 event when there's a change and a rebuild of the Department of Justice. I mean, when people ask me who are Trump enablers and defenders about the Epstein scandal, I'd say, look, it's very easy. Just write down on a piece of paper what an ethical, moral president who wanted to get to the bottom of this would do. It's not that many moving parts. You would release all of the files immediately, regardless of where the chips fell, and you would have your Department of Justice appoint a completely independent special counsel with a full budget to investigate everything in those files and everything that leads from something from those files. And that's what you do. And you compare that with what Donald Trump has done, and you have your answer.
Yes, absolutely. I think, you know, as we move into this, I think the bigger issue is like we've been harping on investigations and investigative leads, and now we did bring that email to Comer it was internal from the FBI that had that list of names. And I think that something that keeps coming up is that, you know, many women, many girls, we weren't really women at the time, many girls have been forced to sign NDAs and have been forced to have sort of these out of court settlements. And so there's a lot of fear involved, which is why we have to move through the legal channels. It's, impossible to come in and just do like an open hearing, nor should a survivor ever be asked to do just an open hearing situation. And so I think with that, like the investigations are crucial in all of this. And I don't know how we're ever going to get there right now. With the current administration, it's really hard.
In the Comer meeting, last question about that one. In the Comer meeting that you participated in, did Melania's ridiculous call for congressional testimony on the record by all survivors as a precondition, apparently, to getting you justice, did that come up?
It didn't come up specifically about Melania saying that, but there were ideas that were being tossed around about how can we give survivors the floor? Like, what do survivors need to see? Is an open hearing something that survivors would want? And you know, I think there was a lot of talk about I don't think that that's the right move. I mean, we just did the one in Palm Beach with the House Oversight Committee. And what ends up happening is you end up getting the stories like mine, right? You end up getting the stories that are, I was with Epstein for almost a year. my story's pretty cut and dry. I wasn't trafficked to more people other than Epstein. And so you don't get these stories of severe trafficking. You don't get these stories of immigrants that are being brought over on visas that are, moving through the system so much faster than they should be. So somebody's helping them and there are sham marriages involved. Like there are so many layers, there are so many things, and none of those women feel safe enough to come forward right now. So you're getting this sort of microscopic view of what this whole world was. So a hearing is really, it's not going to help. We're not doing this just to voice our stories and feel better about ourselves. Like we want real change. We want real accountability. And the only way we're going to do that is by moving through proper legal channels.
Yeah, that's such an angle that I hadn't even thought about.
Yeah.
There's the group of survivors that have come forward, and then there's a group of survivors with more complicated stories, all abused.
Yeah.
You have that in common, unfortunately, but they're not coming out. And that is the layer that what you're saying, the onion, the layers and layers and layers of enablers and co-conspirators, we call them in the law, that like you said, you could have a million hearings or stand on your head and spit wooden nickels, like my mother would say, and it's not going to change, right? It's not going to change a darn thing. That's not what you need for justice. And I'm going to have a Sheldon Whitehouse senator, as I mentioned, tomorrow on an interview, and I'm going to be quite candid with him. I'll be like, you have to jump all over Blanche and his leadership about the Epstein scandal cover-up.
Yeah.
Covering up an international child sex trafficking ring is not okay.
No.
It's not a part of your CV to get the top job.
Right.
And they got to talk like that. That's one thing that frustrates me. And I'm sure you've been around enough elected officials now, especially in the Senate. I know you're with the House a lot, but they're just so, it's ingrained with them, with the more deliberative body in 100 years. We have these rules and regulations, and I got to go to lunch with that guy next week. Like, fuck that. We're beyond who you're going to go to lunch with next week. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Enough. And especially when you're up against the Trump administration and a corrupt Department of Justice. Dani Bensky, every time you come on, I want you to come on again.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
really glad that you're here. Let me see if there's any, I don't know. You want to answer some questions if there are some for you?
Sure.
Let's see if we have any. I don't know. My team has been, I have to remind my group here tonight that we are live. So Jasmine 185, more of a compliment than a question, says Dani's doing a great job for survivors. She's well informed, confident, and expresses herself well. Thanks for having you on this live podcast show today. That's so kind. I could do this all night because there's so many great. You'll look at them later. So many great comments about it. And what's your next step? What's the next thing? Keeping it in the front of people's temporal lobes. What else do you do?
There's so much work to be done, so right now I think the biggest things for us are we just closed a loophole in New York, so there's a lot of stuff that we're working on the state level as well. So in New York there was a loophole that said that 15 to 17-year-olds could be bought for sex and solicited for sex, and it would be a misdemeanor. It wasn't a felony. So we finally just closed that loophole. So there were 3 other survivors that were involved in that. We are working on Virginia's law, which would change the statute of limitations. We are working on also a private right of action, which is called the Redact Act, that would hold the DOJ accountable. So we're in Congress a lot. We're lobbying a lot. We're trying to figure out how to make it better for our kids and try to keep pressure on. I think the hope is ultimately to get a truth commission in New York. We'll see if we can get it. But I think moving to the state level, because honestly, we just don't have that much faith in the federal level right now. So hopefully that changes, we'll see as time progresses, but we're just going to keep bearing down on the fact that there are so many investigative leads. And if we have to bring each one of them to every office, we'll do it, because these survivors, I think, even when I get tired and I feel like I can't do it anymore, I hear one of them talk, and all of a sudden I'm like, they have such tenacity, they have such fight. And you're a part of a sisterhood. You can't let them down, you know? So I know for a fact that when one of us gets tired, the next person will take those leads and run it into an office. And that's just what we're going to keep doing, because we got to change it for everybody. It's not just Epstein and Maxwell survivors, it's survivors across the world and their allies. And so we have to keep pushing.
Yeah, and just to hear you talk about the work you're doing in lobbying and regulations and laws at the state and federal level, I know that makes our audience feel like, you are one. That's why I call you a leader of the survivors, not just a survivor. Somebody asked the question. I'll wrap it up this way. Jasmine 185 said that we've heard different varying numbers about how many Epstein survivors there were. I think you once told me it was 1,400.
It's up to 1,400 now.
Yeah. How many have come forward? I mean, I don't know what come forward means, but how many are public about it and are active?
It's a solid question. I know about 25 that have come forward and been named.
Yeah.
So, but when you look at that number, 1,400 versus 25, it's really staggering. And you have to remember that some people were there for a long time. Some people were really severely trafficked. Some people are back in their home countries, and especially toward the end of Epstein's run, I guess you could say, after the 2008 plea deal, he was really working through immigration a lot. He was bringing girls in from Eastern Europe. So, there's a lot there that I think is very, very fearful of survivors are very fearful. So hopefully we see more. I think, I know that there are a lot more dancers out there, models, dancers, actors. He prayed on it. I call it the Boulevard of Broken Dreams, because he really would take our dreams and hold them against us in New York. Yeah. And I think it's such an interesting thing to see what he held at different properties, because I think every property had its own identity, and he had a different grouping of who he went for, because it did feel like a game to him. So I hope that more dancers come forward. I hope that we can talk to the models, because I think it's very similar in the tactics that he used.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I think you just proved that point you made earlier, which is 25 out of 1,400, and that can't tell the complete story of that child sex trafficking ring, right? As you laid out. If you're not working on a book, you should. You'd be,
yeah.
Right?
We'll see. I feel really these days go so fast, and we're in Congress. I was at a 3-day conference talking about just sex trafficking and what that looked like. Because honestly, I didn't even know what this was as a dance teacher, right? So I didn't even know that I had been trafficked until I understood trafficking a bit more. And now I'm sort of more in that world. So I was there for a conference, and then we did a few days at the reading room, where we were literally reading files to anybody that will listen. And so we're just gonna, we're gonna keep the pressure on. But it's I don't remember what real life even is at this point. I'm like, was I a dance teacher at one point? Did I teach children? Yes, I did at one point. Because this is just life now. It's advocacy, and you don't know how your day is going to unravel, because it's all happening in real time.
Yeah. Dani Bensky, you're not just an Epstein survivor. You're a tremendous human being. We're better that, you walk the earth and are doing the job that you're doing. Thank you for being here on Legal AF and an intersection and everything in between. Really appreciate you and all that you do.
Well, thank you so much. It's a joy to be on. Appreciate
Thank you very much. Dani Bensky, everybody. Listen, we continue to talk about the Epstein files, but we have to take time out and not just do commentary, and bring on people who lived it, if they're willing to do it and they have the courage to do it. And you just saw a tremendously courageous person give us some things and open my eyes. I mean, I've thought about the Epstein files for years now and everything about it, but there were certain angles about it. And I knew about the meeting with Comer. I didn't realize, frankly, that Dani Bensky was in the meeting until we started talking about it. So we kind of broke some news there, which I thought was important. And then let's end our intersection. Thanks for being here. Some great questions. We grabbed some of them from the audience, especially when Dani was here. Somebody asked, what's the latest on Andrew Boutros and the Chicago U.S. attorney? When's the sanctions hearing? It is tomorrow before Judge Coleman, and I will be covering it and following it, because she said now famously that Pandora's box has been opened by his conduct, not just that of his an assistant U.S. attorney, and that she's going to get to the bottom of Boutros's unethical behavior or conduct, and if she finds that happened, there's going to be hell to pay. He's going to have to step down as the U.S. attorney in Chicago. There's no doubt about it in my mind. I mean, just the fact, talk about corruption, just the fact that in order to get out from under sanctions and turning over documents, they thought all they had to do was dismiss with prejudice an $800 million medical fraud case about COVID testing and let those two people, they're presumed innocent, but they're not even going to trial anymore permanently because of the prosecutorial misconduct. That's remarkable. I say it like it's normal. Like I just ordered off, the drive-thru at McDonald's. It's not normal. In fact, never in my career, and I've had a pretty substantial federal practice, had I ever heard of such a thing, let alone vindictive prosecution motions being granted by judges to dismiss indictments, the Department of Justice itself bringing its own motion to dismiss to get rid of a case that it probably could have won because of that misconduct. Outrageous. And somebody else asked, let's see, Jilly with a bunch of Jill F asked, what's the latest on the BBC? Yeah, there's going to be a big hearing in a week or so in front of the magistrate judge about the 47 subpoenas, including the Jack Smith files, that the BBC has asked to be issued in the defamation case. Careful what you ask for. You want a phony $10 billion defamation case so you can use it as a talking point against the BBC or for a ridiculous claim? Well, they get to defend themselves and you don't get to direct their defense. And the BBC, one of their defenses is truth, that Donald Trump fomented an insurrection, and they're going to prove it with their 47 subpoenas. So that's going on. And then somebody asked about E. Jean Carroll. I saw it earlier. Did she get her money? And the answer is not yet. I'm not sure who asked that question. Not yet. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to weigh in on both the $5.5 million judgment and the $83.5 million judgment. With interest, it's like $100 million. And it's sort of stuck in limbo. Now, the Supreme Court 12 or 13 times in conference, like 12 weeks in a row, have said they can't get 4 votes. So they keep putting it up, trying to get that 4th vote. I don't know who they're working internally. I don't know if it's Amy Coney Barrett or somebody. But if they don't get 4 votes, there's no appeal. It dies. Now they could relist it next year and roll it over. There's a bond. There's 2 bonds that are in her favor, E. Jean Carroll. They're running with interest. And Boutros, the guy I just talked about, the Chicago U.S. Attorney's Office, they try to throw him the hot potato and have him announce some sort of investigation of E. Jean Carroll for perjury because she couldn't remember who paid her costs related to her lawsuit. Are you effing kidding me? And he goes, I'm not investigating E. Jean Carroll. I don't know why anybody said that. Well, okay. I'm investigating Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn. See, look at the amount of wasted money for Donald Trump. Every time you hear he went after a political enemy or target, just think $20-30 million of wasted taxpayer dollars. Just every time. Boom, boom, boom. And now we have Gavin Newsom, who, depending upon the poll you look at, is the leading Democratic. I'm not here to debate whether he should be. I'm just saying he is the leading Democrat right now, this many months before the 2028 campaign. He'll be in the top 2 or 3 as we get closer. And he got wind that there's an investigation concerning his wife and him. And I saw this remarkable thing before we get to the clip. I saw this remarkable thing in the New York Post. I didn't know if I was reading about Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, or about the wife of the lobbyist and other wife of Gavin Newsom, because the description was like uncanny. I was like, who are they describing? Let me see if I can pull it up quick on my phone. That's where I do all my best research. Hold on one second. Depends on how many videos I did today. I can't find it, but they went through. Yeah, there you go. The New York Post went through this whole thing about she's powerful and she's had influence and she's done lobbying. I'm like, oh, you mean like Ginny Thomas, including business before the Supreme Court, where Clarence Thomas never accused himself? Okay, can we just say something out loud as human beings? A husband and or wife are allowed to have outside careers. A woman is allowed to have a job and a career. Okay, she's not her husband's chattel any longer. And a daughter and a son are allowed to have careers. And that doesn't mean that the father judge or mother judge are corrupt because they work in politics or any of the other conspiracy theories, attacks that Donald Trump's administration uses to try to divert attention from his failing administration. Yeah. I'm still waiting for the apology for the UFC fighter calling Michelle Obama a gorilla. I know what that's about. That's to distract attention from a completely absentee, derelict in duty first lady. Where is she, by the way? Where is the first lady? The current first lady, I mean. I don't want her in the White House more, but she let her office get knocked down, the East Wing. That was her office. Gone. She never shows up except for state dinners. She doesn't do anything. She's paid, by the way. She's not paid directly, but there's an office of the first lady, taxpayer dollars. So what do you got to do? You got to tear down the one that everybody loves, with and so that your Eastern European former model wife gets somehow elevated. To who? The polling numbers are atrocious. He's now down. It's now down below 20% with the margin of error. So I don't understand every event that he does to try to distract from the failing administration. Ballroom, the tidy bulb blue reflecting pool, now Iranian flag green with an algae bloom. The Kennedy Center and the TARP, the Arc de Triomphe, Arc de Trump, all of these things, the anti-weaponization fund, are hated not just by Democrats, but by liberals, non-MAGA Republicans, and even MAGA, because they think he's not focused on them, because he's not focused on them or us. He's not focused on the cost of living, inflation, gas prices, healthcare prices, the cost of you caring for a loved one, or our social safety net. He doesn't care jack shit. That's a phrase I haven't used in a long time. Not at all. The American people are going to make him pay, and his party pay at the midterms, and he knows it. See, he's running out of time. I joked with somebody recently. It's like a depraved Alexander Hamilton. That line from the movie or from the show. He's running out of time. He wrote all the Federalist Papers because he's running out of time because he knows he's going to die young. This guy's running out of time. His time horizon is not our time horizon. And so he's got to hurry up. The kleptocracy has to increase its velocity. And the stealing isn't done. The stealing's not done. And the reshaping of the DC in his image isn't done. And getting all his friends into federal judgeships and all of his former lawyers, 8 of them so far, is not done. There's one firm in New York. I'm going to do a follow-up on this. Sullivan and Cromwell. Write it down. Yeah. That's where Jay Clayton, the current U.S. Attorney in New York and future Director of National Intelligence, came from. That's who Donald Trump uses for his criminal appeals currently. That's where Matt Schwartz from Sullivan and Cromwell for the Second Circuit got out of committee. That's where 8 or 9 other lawyers are being considered for top federal judgeships and government positions out of that one law firm. It's the only law firm in New York that would do business with Donald Trump. And now they're reaping the benefits, and we're watching it. So Gavin Newsom, back to Gavin Newsom here as we end it. You may have seen the clip. He did the right thing, sort of like Jay Powell, who came out against the criminal investigation about his cost overruns. If that's all you need, cost overruns, to start a criminal investigation, let's get one going about the ballroom. Here's Gavin Newsom coming out swinging.
In recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees, not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one. They're demanding records. They're abusing the grand jury process, digging through years and years of random documents. Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president, because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries to reward cronies and to try to jail his opponents. His personal attorney now runs the Department of Justice, which has repeatedly gone after his political enemies. Ask Jerome Powell. Sent them after James Comey, Trish James, Adam Schiff. He sent them after Tim Walz, and a woman that a jury found Donald Trump had sexually abused. One by one, anyone who has challenged Donald Trump has ended up on his hit list. And today, I proudly join that list. After calling for my arrest last year, Donald Trump directed his Department of Justice to investigate me. And just in the last week, I've learned that his campaign has reached my own home. To get me, he's coming after my wife, Jen, a public servant, a woman who's dedicated her life to supporting women and girls, someone who has done nothing wrong other than having the temerity to advocate for what she believes in. If they can't intimidate me, they'll go after the mother of our children. Donald Trump picked the wrong target. We have nothing to hide. His political operatives can take every record and read every page, but they'll be looking in the wrong place. Because if they really want to find corruption, look no further than 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Donald Trump is...
Listen, say what you want about Gavin Newsom. That's a powerful presentation in his own defense and a smart move politically and emotionally to come out against this administration. I want to wrap up tonight with some quotes from to remind us that there used to be prosecutors that we could look up to and that could be heroes. And you won't recognize the current Department of Justice in the quotes I'm going to read you from a former attorney general, but that's what we should aspire to. And that's what we need to get back to when somebody like Gavin Newsom takes the White House and appoints a new attorney general. This is Robert H. Jackson. I talk about a body of work, but I'm a piker compared to this guy. Attorney General of the United States Supreme Court Justice, and the lead prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. Here's what he told in 1940, the things that he said in 1940 in a speech to his fellow members of the Department of Justice when he was then the Attorney General. He said, "The prosecutor has more control over life, liberty, and reputation than any person in America. The greatest danger of abuse of prosecuting power occurs when a prosecutor picks a person first and then looks for an offense, rather than finding an offense and then identifying the offender. The citizen's safety lies in the prosecutor, who tempers zeal with human kindness, who seeks truth and not victims, who serves the law and not factional purposes." And he ended it this way: "If the prosecutor is obliged to choose his cases, it follows that he can choose his defendants. Therein is the most dangerous power of the prosecutor." We need to return our democracy to leaders in the Department of Justice that we can trust, that will reinstall independence from the executive branch, that will abide by it, that will install independence of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that will be led by people who are not political hacks, who are not trying to do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do in order to have on their obituary it read, "I was once the Attorney General," which is what we're watching with Todd Blanche. Because it's been his lifetime aspiration to get the brass ring. But at what cost, Mr. Blanche, have you grabbed the brass ring? At how much have you debased yourself? Have you sullied your once proud, the guy had a good reputation before, your once proud reputation, that license, that bar license that you have in your back pocket, You once swore to uphold the Constitution and the rules of professional responsibility and to be an officer of the court that could be trusted. And instead, we're left with a bootlicker and a sycophant running around during the Kabuki theater of trying to get confirmed, where even there, they asked them about things like, why are you going after Gavin Newsom? Do we have that clip? Caught my producer by surprise. Let's see. We don't have the clip? Let's see. I got to know. Isn't that his meeting with Grassley? Wasn't he asked? Okay.
I want to congratulate you on your appointment. Thank you. Look forward to the hearing.
Me too.
To the discussion we're having today.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's a very busy time of this season. Yeah, it's good to be here. Sorry. Beginning of a busy week for you guys.
Yeah, you bet.
As most of them are.
Yeah.
So,
So, those things go on pretty good.
I'm going to your state fair in August.
You know what day in August?
I'm not sure which day.
Because I get kind of plan my schedule around your reading day.
We told your staff, so I think we're going to do that
Yeah.
together. Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun 2 days, although I'm told it's hot.
Yeah.
So.
General
Mr.
Blank.
Blank,
Is Justice
why is the
Department
department-
investigating Gavin Newsom? Can you explain that?
I'm not here to make
This is
comments.
not a news conference. This is
Yeah.
just for whatever you
The
want
government
to
is
do.
accusing you of political
What you get.
retribution and the president.
As it goes. I will say.
Am I right, Claire? This is,
All right, guys. No
All right.
questions. That's enough.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Is that a guy you want heading your Department of Justice? He was making very uncomfortable small talk with Senator Grassley, who I'm not sure knew he was there, about the weather and are you busy? And thanks for coming. We're beyond that. We're beyond that with Todd Blanche. He's going to have to answer hard questions. And I know he's trying to get his votes all together and have enough Senate Republicans declare that they're going to vote for him even before he gets confirmed. And that's why people like Senator Whitehouse and Senator Blumenthal had better be loaded for Blanche or for Bear, sorry, and for Blanche. Come his confirmation hearing. The American people demand it. Democracy demands it, as we like to say. And the words of Robert Jackson should be imprinted on every page of their briefing book, you know, and that quote, those series of quotes that I ended tonight with, they have already shown up, as you would imagine, in federal court judges' opinions and decisions and memorandum of law to remind the Department of Justice how they've lost their way. I mean, April Perry, a federal judge in Illinois, when she found out about one of the worst case of prosecutorial misconduct in a grand jury that she's ever seen. This is back in Chicago with Andrew Boutros's people. She actually had to say out loud, let me remind you who, this is to the Department of Justice prosecutors and to Boutros, let me remind you who your client is. Your client is justice. That's your client. You know, I thought she was going to say the United States of America, but she had it right. Justice is your client, and you're committing professional malpractice. That's the next line that could have come tripping out. I'm glad you're here on the intersection. Went a little bit long today. I appreciate the generosity of your time. I thought it was important to have a wide-ranging and deep discussion with Dani Bensky, Epstein survivor and leader, talk about all the things that happened in her meeting with James Comer and what she's doing to change the law and change the world as one of those survivors, and have her here. Programming note, Senator Whitehouse will be with me on Legal AF YouTube this week. Don Lemon will be with me on Legal AF YouTube. Attorney General Phil Weiser, running for governor of Colorado, will be with me this week. We have Skye Perryman, a lot of them in the next 2 days. Skye Perryman, Democracy Forward, talking about her big wins in the anti-weaponization fund and about the national parks and that Donald Trump's attempts to rewrite history and write out of history slavery and what we did to Native Americans, which has now been put to a stop. So an amazing week of newsmakers and journalists, all here in the world of independent journalism that you support with the generosity of your time and spirit, and occasionally money when we have sponsors and memberships and the like. While you're here on Midas Touch, hit the free subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF YouTube channel. We've got 11 to 12 fresh videos every day. Join us there. You'll hear things you hadn't heard before. Hit the subscribe button there as well, and then come over to Legal AF Substack for a live report I do every day at the midday, and about 10 or 12 pieces of content there as well. And while you're here, go to the intersection wherever you get your audio podcasts and download. We're trying to boost those numbers just a little bit, all with your help. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the questions tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Another round of videos over on Midas Touch and on Legal AF and during Substack Live. In the meantime, shout out to the Midas Mighty, the Legal AFers, and the intersectionists. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.